In the officer-involved shootings earlier this week, South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott. Senator, thanks for being here. First, I just want to get your overall thoughts of this violent few days here in America.
It's been amazing, gut-wrenching without any question, reminiscent of what we experienced in Charleston last year with Dylan Roof walking into a church with the objective of starting a race war. Here we have a man, Micah Xavier, wanting to kill white people. We have people filled with hate looking for ways to express it in the most dangerous and violent ways possible. And as we've seen in South Carolina, and specifically in Charleston, we've seen a coming together of folks looking for ways to bridge the gap, to walk in someone else's shoes for a few minutes, to understand, to have empathy towards other folks. And it's such an important part of healing and restoration. And the mayor of Dallas, the police chief of Dallas, and now the governor are already starting down that path to healing and restoration. Very important start. No question, earlier in the week we had two horrific videos on the deaths of two African Americans at the hands of police. Conflating the two issues together, I think, does both issues an injustice. Very important for us to remember and to recognize that men and women in uniform who run into danger to save lives should be respected and appreciated, and the vast majority of these men and women are doing their jobs with the highest level of integrity. And when we see things as we saw them in Baton Rouge and in Minnesota, we take a step back, and it reminds me of the evil that's in man's heart. And so separating those two cases, I think, is very important for the opportunity for us to dig in a little deeper, have some very uncomfortable conversations about race in America. But let's not find a way to make killing cops a part of that conversation, because that is absolutely, unequivocally, without any question, wrong, dead wrong. And as the governor and the mayor said earlier, justice has been served on that young man.
Senator, your thoughts on the president's comments, how he's dealt with this before Dallas, his comments after Dallas, the attorney general weighing in, how the administration overall has dealt with this?
Difficult times for the administration. I'm fairly critical of the administration on a consistent basis. This time I give them a little bit of a little latitude. The reality of it is that these are very difficult times, very challenging situations. His comments before the shooting in Dallas, really the execution by a sniper in Dallas, heartfelt comments. Some I can understand and appreciate, having lived where I have lived in my life for the last several years, a couple decades in South Carolina. I understand and appreciate the tension that exists within law enforcement and minority communities. It certainly is an opportunity for us to take a step back once again and try to understand and appreciate the issue. I had a conversation today with Congressman Trey Gowdy about setting up a meeting with law enforcement officers and pastors to figure out how to bridge the gap. He understands my past with law enforcement, having been stopped 7 times in 1 year as an elected official, and he wants us to find a way to bring a conversation to the table, and I look forward to having that conversation. In the aftermath of the Dallas shooting, I think we all should rally around our men and women in uniform and really have a day of prayer and reflection on so many people who are paying such high price.
Senator, I want to play Minnesota Governor Dayton, from his remarks yesterday. You mentioned the Minnesota incident. Here's what he said about that.
Would this have happened if those passengers, the driver and the passengers were white? I don't think it would have. So I'm forced to confront, and I think all of us in Minnesota are forced to confront, that this kind of racism exists.
Do you agree with that, and others who say that there is systemic racism really all across our country?
I know I've listened to Newt Gingrich and others today come out with very clear statements on the challenges that they have seen within African American communities, and specifically with the relationship with law enforcement. I think there's no question that the tension that exists is one that's real, one that needs to be examined. As I said just a few minutes ago, my personal experience as an elected official has not always been positive. I remain a very positive and strong supporter of law enforcement because I understand that that the vast majority, 95% plus of these officers are doing the job right. It's when you have that negative interaction and when you consistently see African American men dead and an officer on top, as we saw in Baton Rouge and as we saw shooting through a window with a 4-year-old right behind. It's hard to stop and not ask very important and difficult questions to answer.
Let me play one more soundbite for you. This is the Dallas
Sure.
police chief and your reaction to this statement.
We don't feel much support most days. Let's not make today most days. Please, we need your support.
Your thoughts?
I think he's right. At the end of the day, we have men and women in uniform who are putting their lives on the line, and their brothers in uniform are dying trying to allow for us to express our First Amendment rights, the freedom to assemble, the freedom to express ourselves. And to see that kind of devastation, and you see the police officers in the crowd mixed in, taking pictures and having a good time, and then you hear the sound of a sniper targeting not just police officers, but white police officers. If there's ever a time in America's history to stop and say thank you, that time is now.
Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. Senator, thanks for the time.
Yes, sir.
Next, our panel joins me.